So then, it's start of our follow-up, which is the questions not asked, which is obviously now a traditional bit that we follow the podcast with. And I'll just throw some topics into discussion and see where the conversation goes. So the first one that came up was the impact of international travel restrictions on events. So who wants to go first? I'm going to listen to begin with, and I'll have my comment after. So let's go with a guest first.
Okay. Well, I think that there currently is a lot of impacts on international travel, especially as it relates to event planning. I work in global events myself, and it's been unfortunate that we're not able to get people together as we used to as a global united event because of all of the restrictions. Will that continue? I think it is going to continue as we can for the next maybe year or so. So we have to be able to navigate how we meet and make sure all of those options are put forth, especially with hybrid. I'm hoping hybrid sticks. I'm hoping that we can leverage hybrid with our in-person events to really make those global events dynamic and allowing everyone to participate. But it definitely is an impact.
Ellan?
I'm finding it at the moment with an annual international event I usually work at that was obviously cancelled last year. And I think they did manage to put on a hybrid version of it. Well, not a hybrid, sorry, a virtual version of it. But it was tricky. It was very last minute. Lots of lessons learned, lots of challenges. And I think going forward, hybrid is the way forward. But they're holding the event this year. But I think it's still, like you said, it's going to be at least another year before things get back to how they were, because even the event they're holding this year, the usual suspects who would be attending, my clients included, aren't ready to travel yet for various reasons, whether it because it's just, they're not able to go to that country, or whether they're just, the confidence isn't back yet. So on the face of it, it's a bit frustrating. But I know that, Jack, you were mentioning people saying, I think, was it Conflex when you went to, where numbers were down because of probably a lot to do with the travel restrictions, but it did have a positive impact on the quality of people who were there. Is that right, Jack?
Yeah, I think that's what we've seen. We've done a number of events over the past couple of months now. And I think organisers are being realistic as well, and that they're not falsifying the expectations. They're being very true to it and saying, look, we know that numbers are going to be down, but we've got great feedback from the people, and the correct people are coming. And from some of the exhibition spaces that we've created, the feedback from our clients have been, we've had great shows because we've had time with the right people, and we haven't been rushed because we've had to jump onto the next one, or we haven't missed someone. There's been times where people have said, oh, you're busy with someone, I'll come back, and they've come back, because the whole mannerism and the behaviors at the shows have changed. So yeah, I think as long as we focus on delivering the quality and ensuring the right people are there, the right people will travel. But also, I think, touching on what you said, Naomi, I think the whole aspect of hybrid is one that, getting back to normal is probably not the right phrase. It's offering the right experience with this new box of tools that we have in our toolbox, because we have been fortunate to find lots more tools that are available. And I think the aspect of hybrid is one that we have to be careful with. We have to sell correctly, because it isn't cheaper. A hybrid event isn't cheaper. So we've got to be careful in terms of how we sell those opportunities. But in terms of, we're coming up to this year in terms of COP26, and the challenges we have on the planet at the minute, and we'd be foolish not to consider some of these other options when planning events. So I think international restrictions and the impact on events, yes, it is. Will it stop people traveling to events in the future? No, I don't think it will once we're able to, but it might make us think wiser in terms of what travel we need to make and what we don't. Because we're here sat on a call in two different parts of the world. And Naomi, you could be a client that previously
Mhm.
I might have gone and seen. Don't need to go and see at this moment in time. We can do all this online until there is the need to have the in-person impact.
Right.
So
And I feel like in the last few months, the needs of organizations have changed. How they look at the importance of having the events have changed too. The why behind their events possibly could change based off of this whole dynamic as well. So it's really important to revisit that. And like you mentioned, put that in the lens of how can we make this a great experience, no matter how, dependent on your why.
Okay, perfect. Let's move on to the second topic that was dropped in. Coach or mentor, is one better than the other? Who wants to go first on that one then?
I'm going to let Naomi go first because this is her area of expertise.
Well, I would say a coach would be great, but it really depends on the person, and it depends on where you are currently in your journey in the industry, regardless what industry that you're in. Having a mentor is really helpful because sometimes you need someone to ask certain questions as you're learning and you're growing into where you need to be. But having a coach really is about keeping you accountable, helping you meet your goals. You already have those goals set out for yourself, and you need someone to help you to realize them. As a mentor, it's more you're learning your way through things, and you need someone to help you on that journey. So it really depends on where you are in the journey.
Ellan?
I think I think either are good anyway. I've been reluctant to even think about having a coach or a mentor in the past, thinking, oh, I know how to do it, I know what I'm doing, I know best. Very arrogant attitude, really. And then fairly recently I have been getting some coaching, and it's been really helpful. And there's been nothing particularly groundbreaking. It's just having someone to bounce ideas off, to talk things through, to really to ask. They've been asking me the questions that I didn't want to ask myself, so I've had to really think about stuff. And it's been great. So I would say either, both, all of the above.
All of the above.
I think you're right. I love mentoring. I love mentoring from a selfish perspective because I used to be a sports coach, and I miss that aspect of the coaching element. But one word I would say though is and people often get confused with this, and they use the term that they're a coach when they're not. Coaches go through a lot of study to become professional coaches. So I would always say, if someone's going to look to get a coach, make sure you get a qualified coach. Not just someone who's saying that they're a coach. So I always correct people when someone says to me, "Oh, you've been coaching so and so." No, I'm a sports coach, but I'm not a professional business coach. I do mentoring. And that's where I think that there's a big transition and change, and people get confused. But I love mentoring. I love seeing that light bulb moment. When someone thinks of the solution themselves just from the discussion that you have. I think I get a lot from that. I know they're getting something from it, but I also get a lot from that because I think I've been able to pass on that experience I've had, and they've been able to put themselves in that situation and learn from it. So yeah, I think it's transitional stages. I don't think mentors always have to just be at the early stage of your career. A mentor can be someone that is a peer. It can be peer mentoring. Quite often people forget about the empowerment of peer mentoring, within a team or within an organization. But yeah, the coach side of things, it is that accountability. And let's also say sometimes the fact that you're paying for it does hold you more accountable. So sometimes you think, yeah, I'm paying for this. It's a bit like gym membership. Yeah, I've paid for it, I better go.
Show up.
But if you've got a gym at home, you can make that decision of, nah, I don't fancy it today. But you're paying for a personal trainer, so you're actually going to turn up. And that's the other analogy I'll probably, in the sporting context, I would put to it. It helps you be more accountable, like you said. Okay, so the next one is a topic of Wellbeing Week, the importance to reflect on our emotional and mental health. And I know we touched on this in the actual podcast itself, but how important it is to identify and showcase the need for people to look after themselves. I know it's a 365 and we should be looking at it every day, but how important is it to advertise this, especially amongst our communities, so it isn't forgotten?
Definitely, I can go. I think it's important to advertise it, to bring the importance to well-being, so yes, that it's not forgotten, and so that you always keep it top of mind when you're planning events and when you're in the industry. CareerCast basically said we're the 6th most stressed industry, and that doesn't come lightly, right? We work really hard to do amazing things, but we have to work equally as hard to take care of ourselves, and it's very important. And just to remember the things that light you up. Events certainly can light people up, but there are those other things that really you care about. And as you're journeying through life, I feel like that self-care allows you to express yourself in other ways and tend to yourself in other ways that are important to you. And that's important as a whole. Keeping you healthy keeps everything healthy, keeps your events healthy, keeps you being able to bring joy to your clients because you've brought joy to yourself. So I feel like we are in an industry that we are servicing, and we don't want to service from an empty cup. I kind of have that analogy of a cup that has a crack in it and there's water leaking out of it. We don't want to service that way, out of a leaky cup. We want to have that abundance. We want to overflow. And I feel like that should always be our objective and our goal, is to service from that overflow and that abundance and that joy with our clients.
Perfect. Ellan?
It's become more acceptable, hasn't it, to talk about these things, which is brilliant, because I think for a long time it was a bit taboo and it was seen as a weakness if you weren't quite coping. And now it's a lot more open, which can only be a good thing.
I'm gonna throw another one onto the equation, and that's with my business head on, is that if we're not advertising and talking about it, we can't attract the funding to offer the services that support the people most in need. You know, because it doesn't come for free, you know, so a lot of those specialist services that can support those most in need funding. So the more we shout about it, the more we have things like wellbeing weeks and things that similar to that, the more it puts it into the light of organizations that can help support, of governments that can help support. So we need to keep doing things like this to support 365 rather than just 7 days. Perfect. Well, thank you. Thanks ever so much. That's all we have time for on the questions that weren't answered. Yeah, we'll look forward to speaking to you soon, Naomi, and continuing this conversation.
Great. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. You guys are awesome.
Thanks, Naomi.
Thank you.